Sup you beautiful bastards, welcome back to the channel. My name is DrumVillain. Hit the subscribe button if you want me to icicle spear you in the throat, and let's just jump into it. So, originally when Ultra League was coming up, I did ask you guys what you wanted to see me focus on, and the majority did say they wanted to see me focus on an anti-Walrein team, which I kind of doubled down into, and I haven't used Walrein or Trevenant so far in either the Ultra League or Ultra League Premier Classic in any teams I've shown you guys. But there was a fair amount of you that wanted to see Walrein and or Shadow Walrein. So, in this video I'm going to show you guys two teams, one for the Ultra League and one for the Ultra League Premier Classic. Both of them will be using Walrein. You can use Shadow Walrein or regular Walrein, but I will be using the Shadow variant. That is the one I have built and ready to go. These are hard meta teams that are designed to get wins and gain elo if that's what you're looking to do. There'll be no spice here. This is tough meta lines designed to win. Now I did also just want to quickly show you guys that I did actually pull a 100% IV, very lucky, on the day that the Hisuian Voltorb was released. So I'm looking forward to evolving that, maxing it out for the Ultra League. I do have one that's a decent IV spread for the Great League, but I do think that the typing of Electric and Grass is going to be very, very interesting in the Ultra League as well. Alright, now let's start by talking about the Open Ultra League team. We're going to be running a Trevenant on the lead, and I know that early on I was talking about Talonflame as a lead, but recently there have been more things to counter Talonflame on the leads in Open Ultra League than there are actually Talonflames, which means a lot of water types. Trevenant's got a lot of play in general against a lot of things you're going to see on the lead in Open Ultra League, and then in the back we're going to be having the Shadow Walrein and a Scrafty. The Walrein for this team doesn't have to be a Shadow, and the Scrafty does not have to be a Hundo. In fact, the more XL you can get it with lower attack and higher defense and HP, the better it's going to perform for you in general. Now I did actually run this team straight after I hit Legend rank. Like, the next battles I did were with this team and I got up to 3100 elo roughly. With this team, and at that point there were a lot more Talonflame leads than there are now. There's a lot more water types on the lead now, so I believe this team will perform just as well, if not better than that now. With all that said, like the video if you are enjoying the content, seed bomb the subscribe button, and let's jump into some matchups. Alright, first matchup, and we've got our Trevenant against a Galarian Stunfisk, and there aren't that many Galarian Stunfisks around in the Ultra League, even up at Legend rank. I feel like it's dropped off a little in popularity, but there are a few around, and I think it's a good lead for Trevenant, just because it can't really go for Earthquakes, they're resisted, they have to go for Rock Slide, and it's not that efficient of a move for Galarian Stunfisk, whereas you can go straight for Shadow Ball there for big damage, and then once you land a Shadow Ball you can go for Seed Bomb and potentially Shadow Claw them down. So it does put you in a strong position. Now, one thing to be conscious of is if you see a Galarian Stunfisk lead, bear in mind you have a Scrafty in the back that is very, very good against Galarian Stunfisk, and that means they're probably going to have a hard counter for a fighter in the back. They'll probably have a Charmer back there or the equivalent, and that means you definitely want to win switch advantage, because alignment's going to be super important, because they will almost certainly have a hard counter for Scrafty in the back. So we're going to take switch advantage, give up a shield because they did, and they come in with a Greedent, and this Greedent's going to really struggle to farm us down with the Bullet Seed, which is resisted, and Greedent's not got the highest attack stat, so we're just going to keep spamming out these Seed Bombs until they throw a move at us, and then we're going to bring in the Scrafty, because it's a pretty neutral matchup here against the Greedent, and then they'll probably have a hard counter in the back. We're not going to shield this up. There's a good chance at this point that Walrein will be the win condition, especially if there is a Charmer in the back and it's actually a Cresselia. So actually this trainer isn't super prepared for a Scrafty, but also all the Pokemon on the team can put in some decent work against Scrafty. We're going to go ahead and try and catch a Moonblast on Shadow Walrein, because that should absorb some damage nicely, because otherwise the Grass Knot's going to start adding up pretty fast against Shadow Walrein, and a Moonblast would almost certainly take out Scrafty from that range. The nice thing about catching a Moonblast as well is that because it does a little bit less damage than a Grass Knot would, even though this is a Shadow Walrein, we would be able to survive a Grass Knot if they did throw one at this point. So we don't shield, but it's actually a Future Sight, which does a nice big chunk of damage to us, and we're now actually at risk of being farmed down entirely, which is kind of scary, but also we're not that far off a move. With Scrafty we should be able to make it to a foul play, and we should be able to then take out the Greedent absolutely no problem at all. We were a little worried they'd try and catch on Greedent, try and catch this foul play. That probably is their win condition, but they don't manage to nail it. This Greedent does have a lot of energy. They've probably got 2 body slams here, but it will probably be just a little bit short of KOing, and bear in mind this Scrafty that I'm running here is probably the squishiest Scrafty that you will see in Ultra League because it's not PvP IVs at all, it is just a hundo that is the cheapest to build. So we're able to take that first win, and in the next matchup we've got a trainer that wasn't quite legend rank, and I was very tempted to throw the game because it's always tempting to let trainers take a win when they're close to legend rank. After you just hit it, you get feeling very generous, but for this set in particular I was wanting to get as many wins as possible and try as hard as I could with this team to show off some wins. I did actually surrender against quite a few expert ranked trainers that were in the top 2900s just to give them the extra win, maybe help them make the extra push. Now in this matchup we did have a Charm, Alolan, Ninetales on the lead, and I class that as a pretty good lead for Trevenant because it keeps this Ninetales away from Scrafty. You can generally force at least shield advantage in this matchup. If you do commit to shield and they decide to charm you down entirely, and that's fine, we put a lot of work in here. This Alolan Ninetales is pretty much done for. We're going to bring in Walrein because it doesn't have to worry about shielding up a Weather Ball and we can get an energy advantage. They're actually going to swap out into a Cresselia, and we're a little unsure what to actually do in this situation because that Alolan Ninetales doesn't have that much health, but it's got enough health to put some serious work in on our Scrafty with those charms. They are double super effective and they are stab. They will absolutely melt Scrafty given the chance. We decide to stay in here, spam out some Icicle Spears as we still do have that shield advantage, and just see what this opponent wants to do with that. We're actually going to just keep going. We're not going to swap out. We feel like they might be trying to bait out a fighter because their Charmer on the lead probably is there to bait out something dark like Obstagoon or Scrafty, and then they're probably weak to counter in the back. I'm actually predicting they will have a Walrein in the back at this point. So we take out the Ninetales. What are they going to bring in? They're down. The Cresselia is pretty much spent, and it's actually a Giratina. That's absolutely fantastic for us. Walrein is still healthy and able to absolutely nail these Icicle Spears. We probably would have been fine in this game either way if we had have swapped Scrafty into Cresselia and then preserved the Walrein, but either way Scrafty's going to be able to put some serious work in here because this is a Shadow Claw Giratina. It's going to really struggle to put any damage out onto us. It has to be depending on those Dragon Claws. We can comfortably get to 2 foul plays, and with the massive chunk of damage that Giratina took from the Icicle Spear from Walrein, it's going to be in a single foul play range, and now this Cresselia is in a tough spot because they have to get to 2 moves ideally to take us out. You have to get to a Moonblast for the Scrafty and probably a Grass Knot or another Moonblast for Walrein, so we're just going to comfortably take that win. GG. So it seems like that opponent's strategy was to try and bait out a Dark type with Cresselia for then Alolan Ninetales to take care of and clear the path for Giratina, but we're able to take that win anyway pretty comfortably. Alright, matchup number 3, a Gallade lead. So I've got a feeling this opponent actually accidentally went into the open Ultra League with their Ultra League Premier Classic team because they've got a Walrein on the save swap, and if I remember rightly they've also got a Lapras in the back, so it's very much a classic ABB Ultra League Premier Classic style team. But we've got Scrafty to punish this Walrein, and if you do see someone swap a Walrein into your Trevenant, you do want to match it with your Scrafty. And the great thing here as well is that once Scrafty actually takes switch advantage here, it actually resists the confusion damage from Gallade. We are pretty low though, so they probably still can confusion us down if they do commit to it. We might get to this foul play yet. We're able to just survive long enough, and this will do a nice big chunk of damage if they do let it through, and means a bit less work for Trevenant to do. We do pull the shield, which is nice, and also Gallade generally doesn't run any charge moves that threaten Trevenant anyway, so shield advantage can go entirely into dealing with this Lapras in the back. We're going to swap Walrein in because we're double resisting the Ice Shards, and they are double resisting our Powder Snows, but we have the shield advantage, so we can go for Earthquakes. We get there faster than they get to Skull Bash. They have to call our bait, and it's not, you know, the only win condition for them at that point realistically was if we tried to bait them with an Icicle Spear and they didn't shield it up. So we just go straight for the Earthquake. We could have comfortably made it to 2, and now we just let Walrein go down. We don't mind. We would have been able to finish off the Gallade with Trevenant comfortably, and we're going to take that win. Sometimes Ultra League Premier teams can really screw with the Open Ultra League and can really catch you off guard, but in this case it really did give us the dramatic advantage there. Alright, matchup number 4, and another Alolan Ninetales, and this is a Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales, so it is a mistake to stay in with Trevenant. Ideally we do want to get our Walrein against this thing, but really we should have safe swapped Scrafty. And that might sound like insanity swapping Scrafty against a fairy, but Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales struggles with Scrafty because they have to land a Dazzling Gleam to take you out, if they're even running Dazzling Gleam. Most Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales are running it, but if they don't have it, they really struggle to take you out. The Powder Snows don't add up, and you can really ramp up your damage with power-up punches, committing a shield or two in. If you successfully shield a Dazzling Gleam, you're in a very, very strong position. And it's a big mistake on our part to say swap Walrein, because it was very likely they'd have a punish to Walrein in the back. And our only hope now is to farm down with Trevenant to get a massive energy advantage. We call this going to be a power-up punch, and we call it wrong. We get foul played, we lose nearly 100 energy on Trevenant, and now we've just got Scrafty, hoping that they're for some reason weak to Scrafty in the back. It's a Jellicent that is a pretty positive situation for us, but this Scrafty has a lot of work to do now. We're going to go straight for the foul play, expecting them not to shield. They don't, because realistically the obvious play in that situation is to go for a power-up punch bait, which we assumed that they would call. So we're going to go straight for the foul play, and we might go for another foul play again. We might really call that they're just going to commit to no shielding this Jellicent and save the shields for the Alolan Ninetales. So we're going to go for another foul play. They're going to let this go through. They do. So now they're getting pretty low. At this point, we can probably start throwing power-up punches, ramping our damage back up, and get towards farming down the Jellicent. They actually swap out into the Alolan Ninetales, and you're going to see the Powder Snows will start to add up because we're starting to get pretty low, but we're just not going to be able to put quite enough work in at this point. And if we had have say swapped Scrafty at the start of the game, we probably would have drawn out their Scrafty. They're unlikely to bring a Jellicent into a healthy Scrafty. They might have stayed in with Ninetales, which would have been fine for us, or they would have brought in their own Scrafty, which would have cleared the path for our Walrein to do fairly well towards the back end of the game. But you see this Ninetales has got far too much energy. They can just go for Powder Snows because we were pretty low. We were close to Weather Ball range when they did swap the Ninetales back in, so we're in a very tough spot, and we're going to take that loss, unfortunately. So, Charm Alolan Ninetales, you're staying with Trevenant. Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales, you want to swap to Scrafty straight away and see what they choose to do with that. Now, if you're thinking, what do you do with an Obstagoon or Scrafty lead, you just have to stay in with Trevenant. You can put in a fair amount of work with the Seed Bombs. Scrafty's a little easier to handle than Obstagoon, just because the Shadow Claws are only single resisted and do add up, but you do have to just stay in with the Trevenant with an Obstagoon or Scrafty lead, and oftentimes they're not equipped to deal with Walrein in the back if you do catch something like that on the lead and you do manage to get it out of the way. Right, Nidoqueen lead, not brilliant, but also not the worst. It's a pretty neutral matchup between Trevenant and Nidoqueen. You can't really swap Walrein in because Scrafty's going to struggle with it, and there's a good chance they have a hard punish for Walrein in the back. But we are going to let Trevenant go down, and we're going to bring in Walrein for an aggressive farm. We've got shield advantage. They swap out into a Giratina. That must have been a blind panic swap or something. That, or they've only got one hard counter to Walrein in the back. So we're just going to stay in here, and we're just going to absolutely annihilate this Giratina. They're either going to give us shields, or they're going to get smashed to pieces. Icicle Spear does a monstrous chunk of damage. We're already at a second one, and are they going to give us that last shield, or are they going to let this Giratina go down? And we'll see what they want to bring in the back. With a shield advantage, Scrafty can probably comfortably take out the Nidoqueen with a foul play given the chance, and they've got an Umbreon in the back. Scrafty is looking pretty positive at this point. We go to catch a foul play on Scrafty. We do. That's absolutely fantastic. Strengthens our position even more, and you can see the Nidoqueen's already getting super low. We can realistically just go for power-up punch and absolutely it probably forced the shield actually, because Umbreon has such a bad matchup with Scrafty, but actually we're farmed down entirely, which is crazy. We've got a buttload of energy now, and we're just going to stall out the clock so that we can swap to Walrein to clear the defense debuff to make sure that a last resort won't take us out, because this Umbreon's got a fair amount of energy now, but our switch timer is coming up pretty soon, so we shield this up. Last resort, we throw, we're going to throw one more power-up punch. We're comfortable that we've got time to do that, but after this we're definitely going to swap to Walrein, clear that debuff. No, we're going for the major damage. We go for the catch at the end, snipe down and take that game. I guess we were just happy just to keep on trucking on. We were comfortable that one defense debuff wasn't enough to actually mess up our Scrafty. The Umbreon knew it needed a buttload of energy to deal with our backline. The Walrein still had energy to dump into that Umbreon as well, so a pretty comfortable win there. GG. And that's a great thing about Trevenant. Sometimes you catch a lead that isn't quite the best, or where you can't control switch advantage as such, but also you clear some of the hardest counters for Walrein or Scrafty out, and really those can sweep in the back given the chance. So this team able to push us up to 30-91, and this was on the second day of Ultra League actually being in, so that was a pretty high elo to have at that stage. Now let's take a look at the Premier Classic team. If you saw my short of me trying to get a win with the Johto Legendaries exclusively in Open Ultra League, I tanked about 300 elo trying to get one win, because after I hit global leaderboards I really wanted to drop my elo a little bit because it was getting very slow to matchmake. It was taking me on average 10 minutes to find a game, but this team did pretty well at climbing us back up to around the 3000 elo mark. And this team is going to be a Sylveon lead with Shadow Snorlax in the say swap and then Walrein in the back. You can use regular Snorlax or even Trevenant as a replacement if you don't have Shadow Snorlax on the say swap for this team if you want, but you're less likely to bait out a fighter that's going to then clear the path for Walrein to sweep. I do think Sylveon is the best choice of a Charmer on the lead for this team. Togekiss has better play against Escavalier, but Sylveon has better bulk in general and also has access to Psyshock to threaten those poison types if it does manage to get some energy. Now, if you are running Shadow Snorlax and Walrein in this team, you do have to swap if you have the slightest inkling that they might have a fighter in the back, because something like a Machamp, once it gets past the Sylveon, is going to be absolutely able to sweep your team. So we swap out to Snorlax, we do bait out the Machamp, that's pretty nice. We get an extra couple of charms worth of energy. Now I've got a Psyshock to throw. I believe it's the Walrein that did come back in, which is pretty nice. And there's a good chance now that the path is cleared for Walrein to sweep the back of this team, unless they got two counters to Walrein in the back, which some people are running. And like I said, if you run Trevenant instead of Snorlax on this team, there's less pressure to swap out of initial matchups, because if they do actually have a fighter in the back, Trevenant does do very well against that as well. But there are a lot of people keeping counter users in the back in the Ultra League Premier Classic. It's just the way it is, it's just the meta. People have to be prepared to deal with a Walrein in the back. Now we are going to bring in our Walrein and see what this opponent wants to do. Go for the Earthquake, take them out. And what is it? It's a Trevenant that they've got, and we've already got an Icicle Spear ready to go. We're going to be able to force the shield, we're going to make it to another Icicle Spear. If they throw a Seed Bomb, it's not going to take us out. They realistically have to throw 2 Seed Bombs or a Shadow Ball and a buttload of Shadow Claws. Realistically, they have to throw 2 Seed Bombs. We're going to be able to survive one, even though a Shadow, you still got a decent amount of bulk. It was a nice big chunk of damage for sure. We're actually going to swap into Sylveon to Charm down and just secure that win to make sure that we didn't get a spike of lag that's going to get us farmed down or anything like that. GG. Alright, next matchup, and you're going to see we're going to make quite a big mistake in this game, because I am just not as adept at the Premier Classic as I am at Open Ultra League. We get an Obstagoon lead against our Sylveon, which is absolutely fantastic. That's exactly where you want to see an Obstagoon. And they swap into a Kanto Muck. And I wasn't fully prepared for Kanto Muck. I didn't really fully know what to do with it at first, forgetting that it has access to Thunder Punch, which is a very brilliant coverage move that really helps it deal with Walrein. And they actually shut up the Earthquake, which is even worse for us. So at this point, we have definitely lost switch advantage in this situation, and that means that the Obstagoon is going to be able to get onto our Snorlax. Now, the Muck is going to throw energy here to finish us off. We're going to let it go because they would be able to still take us out if we did shield that up. We're going to bring in Snorlax and go for an aggressive lick down. If an opponent swaps into a Kanto Muck against this team, you do want to bring in Shadow Snorlax straight off. The licks are neutral, the body slams are going to do big damage, and you should be able to control switch advantage a little more comfortably. Now the Obstagoon comes in and we're going to go straight for a superpower. Shield this or get absolutely smashed to pieces. We do get the shield. We're going to swap to Sylveon. We've got a 2 shield advantage and they've got a Charizard in the back. So they've managed to get their fire type locked against our Charmer. They've got their Obstagoon locked against our Snorlax, but they've gone down 2 shields to achieve this. And with shield advantage, Sylveon's going to be able to get to a Psyshock. You see that these charms are also chunking away at Charizard, and we are going to be able to actually take out this Charizard, and it is worth committing both shields because the Sylveon charms are going to do monstrous damage to Obstagoon before they take us out, and should put us in a good position to actually maybe be able to get to a body slam with Snorlax and finish them off. We do opt to try and throw a Psyshock here, and this is a mistake. We should commit to the Moonblast. It doesn't actually make us throw the Psyshock even though we had tapped it, so we get refunded that, which is nice. We survive the Night Slash with 1 HP and a Dream. We're going to throw the Moonblast. This is going to smash Obstacle to pieces, and we're going to take that win. GG. So we did get a little lucky with Sylveon carrying us through that game, but it's surprising how much Charmers can do if you give them 2 shields at the end game, and it really did pay off in that matchup. Alright, jumping into the next matchup, and we've got the Nightmare lead and a Lowen Mulk. Now if they're running Snarl for some reason, this isn't a terrible matchup for Sylveon, but since they're running Poison Jab, it's absolutely horrendous for us. So we're going to safe swap our Snorlax and pull out a Machamp on the opposing team. That cross chop does an absolutely huge chunk of damage because it's a Shadow Machamp against a Shadow Snorlax. We don't get the Body Slam off, but we're able to charm down with our Sylveon, which still means we've lost switch advantage. They've still got their Lowen Mulk aligned with us here. Our switch clock is nowhere near up. We're going to let this go. We're going to assume that it's an Acid Spray, which it is, which is kind of nice that we don't shield that up. But also we're still in a very, very tough spot, and we're just hoping that now that the Machamp is out of the way that Walrein can sweep. They've got a Gallade in the back, and Gallade makes a good safe swap against Walrein because there's a lot of pressure from the Leaf Blades and the close combats. But actually head to head in a game where you're committing 2 shields to go against these things, Walrein does pretty well. They're able to sneak Powder Snow through when they actually throw their first charge move. We're expecting it just to be the Leaf Blade, but at this point it would actually take us out, and we've got nearly 100 energy at this point. We are going to commit the second shield here and just now start spamming these Icicle Spears out. I'm going to throw this one. If it gets the shield, we should be able to throw one more Powder Snow and then throw another Icicle Spear, which will take out the Gallade, and then we've still got energy to do big damage to that Lowen Mulk, which is energy dry because they threw a Acid Spray at the Sylveon. We want to go for the Earthquake, but we get a little bit nervous and decide to go for double Icicle Spear instead, just to guarantee we got at least some damage off before going down. But we get to the second Icicle Spear and we're going to take the win, despite having a Lowen Mulk against Sylveon, Machamp against Snorlax, and Gallade against Walrein. And that just shows how strong these Pokemon can be, even in negative matchups. If you get the strongest counter to Walrein out of the way, it can just wreak havoc on teams. Alright, we're going to jump straight on into matchup number 4, and we pull a Shadow Swampert lead. And Shadow Swampert is incredibly awkward because it's very difficult to say what they're going to have in the back. They're probably going to have a hard counter to a Grass type in the back, but that could take the form of something like Charizard, it could take the form of something like Typhlosion, or it could be a Crobat that swaps in here aggressively into our Sylveon, catches a Psyshock, which was a nice big chunk of damage. And you might think, well, it's a shame the Psyshock went to waste when Walrein can destroy Crobat so handily, but what that actually means is that Crobat is in range of just being Powder Snowed down entirely. So now we've got a huge amount of energy on this Walrein, and we have been debuffed by 1 Poison Fang from the Crobat, but we're actually going to throw an Icicle Spear blindly. We're expecting the Swampert. Their own Walrein is in and takes that absolutely no problem. We're going to throw the Earthquake, we get the shield, which is the best case scenario for the opponent here, but still we don't mind. We've got the shield back that we committed early on in the game. We're going to get to another Earthquake, and they're going to shield this up. They expect an Icicle Spear, big damage, and we actually CMP tie. That's absolutely perfect. It's a big mistake on the opponent to let us get to that second Earthquake and do that much damage, and that's actually really going to secure the win for us in this game. We're going to catch on the Sylveon. It doesn't really matter that we caught on the Sylveon. We were in a strong position anyway, and we're just going to farm down, and we can just take this win at this point. Snorlax is far too healthy, Sylveon's far too healthy. GG. And realistically, we were in a very close situation in that game, but the opponent letting us get to that second Earthquake with our Walrein really did put it into our favour. Alright, last matchup, the Escav lead, which realistically looks on paper like the Nightmare lead for this team because counter damage super effective against Walrein and Snorlax. It's part Steel type, so it's resisting the charm damage from Sylveon. They actually swap out into a Nidoqueen, which is fine for us. We're going to throw the Psyshock for a nice big chunk of damage, and then we're going to bring in Walrein. There's an argument to be made that we should have stored the energy on Sylveon and just swap straight to Walrein, but either way, the Nidoqueen has Stone Edge that absolutely takes us by surprise. Bang! Walrein is absolutely annihilated by that. We managed to just survive it and get an Icicle Spear off to finish off the Nidoqueen and control switch advantage, but it doesn't matter that much in this situation. It's not brilliant for Sylveon or Snorlax, but it is better to have Sylveon aligned with it than Snorlax because the charms do add up. Escavalier isn't that bulky, and even though we're not resisting the draw runs or the Mega Horns, you can see they don't do that much damage, but now they've got a Crobat in the back. So realistically, we either should have brought in Snorlax to the Nidoqueen, although Nidoqueen can control switch advantage against the Snorlax because of that Poison Jab and Poison Fang damage. But also we probably should have shielded up the Stone Edge from the Nidoqueen, but that's such a spicy move to run on it. There was no way we could have predicted it, and we do have 2 Body Slams here, but the damage realistically is done. Their Escavalier does have another drill run stored, I do believe, or it's very, very close to one, and at this point, there's just not much we can do. This Crobat has 2 shields, so they can shield both Body Slams, and now they can get to a Poison Jab, Poison Fang even, and just take us out. And this game is done and dusted, and that's going to be a GG. So Sylveon really had nowhere to go against that team, but if you do see an Escav lead, you just stay in with Sylveon. You can put a lot of work in, and you can see the opponent actually swapped out first and gave us the chance to take advantage if we did have hard counters in the back. It was just unfortunate that we couldn't really handle the Crobat and the Nidoqueen. So that's the 2 team guys. Let me know what you think of the teams down below. Any questions, ask me down in the comments and I will try and get back to you with any advice that I can give. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're already subscribed to the channel, you're an absolute legend, and I will catch all you guys next time.